So my name's Brent Porcio. Jeff and I, grew up playing college ball together. Obviously, we didn't start growing up at college, but that's when we met. We might have, I don't know, did we play in high school? I don't think we did. You came from a smaller town than where I grew up.
Yeah, smaller. Yeah.
So we met.
I was in Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah, so we met in college and we played for kind of rival colleges, and he was a real good leadoff hitter and he frustrated me as a pitcher. And we had some battles. And then, I wound up tearing my rotator cuff in college. And so my college career was kind of recovering from a rotator cuff tear, which is debilitating to the point where most doctors said I wouldn't play again. And it took about 3 years of training to actually be able to get on a mound and be competitive again. So that's really what started my learning process. And I, through the years and, off and on and crazy things went, I wound up running into Jeff again in animation school, which was a really great side story. And, he became the legend he is today. But I could never get away from baseball. I loved it. I loved the biomechanical aspects of it, which is why I liked 3D modeling, like what Jeff is a master at. And it really helped me better understand the skill of pitching, which I love. That's like one of my favorites. I love hitting too, but pitching to me is the most advanced form of any skill. So I wanted to really master it. So I went into it really heavy and I studied it. I wound up getting a master's in kinesiology. I'm getting my PhD in sports science right now. I wound up getting it. This helped me get back to where not only was I healthy, but I competed at a high level for me. I mean, I got low to mid 90s. I wound up playing indie ball in San Diego. I wound up playing pro ball in Europe and had a little bit of a career after, putting it together and being a little old at that point. And then I wanted to give back, guys. I wanted to teach and really show the game what it really was not understanding. It didn't really have a good understanding of how you develop healthy throwing athletes, how you how do mechanics really work, get rid of all this what we call conventional wisdom. Like, how does this stuff really work? What's the science of this? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? Is there a healthy way? Can I get to 100 miles per hour? Like, answering these questions through the science that I've set out to do, and we've been able to do most of it, and then helping others by putting into a system of training to allow them to apply what we call principles, these core principles of player development, like developing yourself into an elite pitcher, even elite hitter, elite position player. And I built TopVelocity, and TopVelocity's been around for 15 years plus now. We've worked with every player at all levels. I've consulted in Major League Baseball. I've helped. This is my most exciting year because I now have 3 pitchers that came through here as amateurs, basically close to your age, and are now either in the big leagues or one step away from the big league. So it's exciting when you get to take a kid from where you guys are and then watch his growth process and help him mature all the way up to the major league level. It's really exciting. So it's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, so is Rylan on here?
Yeah.
Rylan?
Yeah.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Okay, hey, somebody introduce our team. Someone talk a little bit about who we are as a team. Who wants to do it? Aiden Peters, go. Introduce us.
We're kind of like a team. We were made up. Some of us have been on the team for a while. Others joined this year. And we're just like we're like lots of competitive tourneys, and we're still kind of local, but we have a few tournaments out of state this year. And yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, we are Prospect United, 12U. Next year will be 13U. And we're a pretty good little competitive team up here in the state.
Y'all are associated with Jim, right?
Yeah, exactly. We train out of Big League Edge. And then
Yeah, so
we also train at TopVelocity 2 times a week during the off season, and then on Tuesdays once a week during the season in TopVelocity in Bellevue.
Have all y'all gotten to meet Jim Parquet?
Yeah.
So y'all got some inspiring guys around you. I mean, Jim is a legend, specifically being a little guy who is a legend out of UCLA. His roommate from UCLA and I actually played indie ball together. That's how I first met Jim. But and then he goes into the big leagues at what is he, 5'7"?
He's probably 5'9", 5'10".
Oh, I don't even think he's that big.
Probably 5'9", 5'9".
He definitely would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think he's what? How tall are you?
He's just maybe an inch taller than Julian now.
And how tall are you, Julian?
I'm like almost 5'8".
Yeah, he's probably 5'9". Yeah. So I mean, it's Jim's an impressive beast, man. Impressive beast. He should inspire all you guys.
Well, cool. Okay, so the topic of conversation is really about how can we set all these guys up going into their 13U baseball season as they transition from 12U baseball, and really trying to get them to understand and learn how to have better eating habits and how to maximize their genetic potential at this point.
Yeah, guys, if you look at the studies of what separates performance at a young age, like your age, it's all athleticism. It's all size and athleticism. I mean, you guys see it. And there's high correlations at your age to body mass and performance. Like, it's pretty common at your age, the bigger guys, maybe not, when I say on average, I don't mean everyone. There's going to be outliers. But it's pretty common that the bigger guys have an advantage at your level, but you're also going to see at the big league level, it just gets less dominant of a difference. So size really matters, guys. Now, if you're not going to be big, because I know we don't have guys that they know they're not going to be big, how do we overcompensate? That's what we call, you got to be, if you're disproportionate on this end, you have to be disproportionate on this end. So meaning, like, if you're disproportionate in size, if that's height, if that's mass, then you're going to have to find something on this end to be disproportionate in, which will balance it out. Like, I'm going to have to be faster than everyone. I'm going to have to be more mobile than everyone. I'm going to have to be more explosive than everyone. Something on this end, you're going to have to tip up to balance the scale, right? So that's the thing at your age is you bigger, stronger, faster, more mobile couldn't be more important to you guys right now. But the hardest thing is that's a lot of that is dependent on your own genetics. Like, are you going through puberty? We all know probably at this point what puberty is, right? When our body wants to grow, it wants to grow everything. And though when you hit those moments of real growth spurts in your life, that's when you really start to see change. Sometimes the change is good, sometimes the change is bad. Sometimes you see a guy grow really fast and his skill gets worse. Then you'll see another guy grow really big and his skill gets better. And that just, once again, has to do with, it's more than one thing. It's not, I just got to be big. It's not, I just got to be fast. It's not, I just got to be mobile. It's not, I just got to be efficient. It's got to be as everything as well-rounded as you can be. When you get around an elite, highly skilled baseball player and you measure them, they're going to be pretty impressive across the board. It's not like one thing's going to be all the way up here. No, everything is going to be higher than you. Okay. So right now you have to start to apply this foundation, right? You have to start first learning where you are, what separates you, and then what you have to do to get there. That's purely what's happening right now. So your guys y'all are in what we call the cognitive stage of learning. Right now, you just got to start understanding how this works, guys. And I know it's hard because your brains too are slowly awakening to life and responsibility and all this stuff and things you can actually influence. But right now, the faster you can learn, guys, and you can start preparing for your high school years, the more prepared you're going to be. And then, like the old Napoleon Bonaparte saying, whoever, if you don't plan to, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So right now, the more you can prepare for what you need to achieve in high school, and you can start to plan that out and start the process, you're going to be so much farther down the road when you get into high school. I want to keep it interactive because I'll just fall to sleep. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'll ask. I'll just ask the basic question: like, how does a player gain good weight going into the season? We want to get bigger, faster, stronger. These boys are starting to lift already. They've been lifting all last season, and it's really made an impact in our overall team performance. Where it's pretty clear that most of the time we're the stronger team on the field. So they're really accustomed to working out. The thing that we have talked very little about is really nutrition and eating, and how do we get bigger? How do some of these kids gain weight going into next year?
All right, we'll do something interactive. Everybody's probably on mute. Raise your hand if you think you know how many calories equals 1 pound. See if anybody knows. How many calories equals 1 pound? Or who can look that up on Google as fast as they can?
Yeah.
Oh, look at Gavin's raising his hand. Unmute. How many pounds? Or how many calories equals 1 pound, Gavin?
Isn't it 2,000?
No, close. Anybody else? Go ahead, Mason. Can you unmute him?
3,500.
2,500? Almost.
No, 3,000.
Oh, 3,000. Okay, you did it. You found it on Google. Good job. So 3,500 calories equals 1 pound. Give me an example of a plate of food that you normally eat that equals 3,500 calories. Anybody can give me an example of a plate of food that you normally eat that would equal 3,500 calories?
Aiden, you have anything? Kenji?
Because none of you guys eat that much in one plate. That would be like...
Sebastian just said fried chicken.
No. Well, you'd have to eat a bucket of fried chicken.
You would have to eat a bucket of fried chicken.
That would be like 4 hamburgers, maybe 4 to 5 hamburgers.
Griffin, what's your favorite food, man?
Sushi or poke.
Okay.
Yeah,
A
well,
lot of salmon.
good fish. Fish has a lot of good oils if you're eating oily fish, but good protein. You know, that's a good choice of food, but once again, you got to eat a lot of it. And that's the hard thing right now. It's like people always come in with these preconceived notions of what a lot is, right? I mean, that's one thing I hear all the time. Oh, I work out a lot. Oh, I eat a lot. Well, what is a lot to you? And when they tell me what a lot means to them, that's what I consider very little, right? So
Okay, so Brent, here, I got a good question for you, man. Let's say you are just turning 13 years old, right? How tall were you at 13?
I was a late bloomer, so I was probably like 5'1". Now
Okay,
I'm
so
6'2".
you were 5'1", 5 foot at 13 years old, and how much did you weigh?
Probably 125 pounds.
Okay, so raise your hand, guys, if you kind of fit the size that Brent just mentioned. 5 foot, 125 pounds. All right, or under. Raise your hand if you're 5 foot, 125 pounds or under. Yeah, okay. There you go. All right, great. Now, Brent, what would you, knowing what you know now, what would you do if you were 5 foot 125 right now and just 13? What is the big thing you would do for that?
I was late in the weightlifting process, mainly because I'm 45 years old, so that really wasn't that common, specifically in baseball. It was being shunned to do in baseball. So I would have definitely started lifting early, or gone through the what we call learn to train process. Like, if we can't get into what we call the train to compete process until we have learned to train, then we got to train to train, which means now we got to start getting good at it. And then we got to train to compete. And then we want to train to win. This is a developmental system we all have to go through. And there's many years in each one of those steps. And I wish I would have started that learn to train a lot earlier. And then same thing, we could apply that to food. I need to learn to eat too. So I would have started earlier, learning to train and learning to eat, what I should be eating, how much I should be eating, when I should be eating. I needed to learn that at that time or earlier, because I didn't. When I got to 17, I looked like a 14-year-old. If I would have done this, I would have gotten to 17 and looked like a 19-year-old. And that's what scouts are looking for. They're not looking for the 17-year-old that looks like he's 14. They're looking for the 17-year-old that looks like he's 19. Or the 17-year-old that looks like he's 17, and they're assuming when he's 19 he's going to be a monster and he's already good.
Absolutely. Like when Julian, he's gone to some of Nate Trotsky's camps, and what did Nate say about late blooming?
Oh, well, he mentioned that, like, yeah, you don't want to bloom like too early, but at the same time you kind of do, because if you bloom too late, like your opportunities could already be gone.
Yes.
So like peak early and get seen, and then that's what
and then keep getting better. It's like better. It's almost an impossible thing that they want. They want you to peak early and then get even better.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're looking for what they call lightning in a bottle. They want to find a superhero. They're not looking for average dudes. They're looking for superheroes.
Mm.
And if you're not at superhero status, you at least showing some signs of it. That's what they're looking for. I mean, I'm saying superhero probably means nothing to any of you guys, but what I mean is like someone that is running ability is far exceeding, 90% of the population. Someone's, skill movements, motor control is far exceeding 90% of the population. So, something that you're doing that is just so well and above everyone else. That's what I mean, superhero. Because what's a superhero? They have qualities that no one else has. That's what I mean. That's what they're looking for, that you have qualities that very few people have. And they want to notice that young because they want to get to you before anyone else does. Right?
Yeah. So Brent, maybe to keep it interactive, maybe we could just start with some questions of, what some of these guys' goals are for the next like 6 months to 12 months.
Well, let's go like this.
Yeah.
Let's go let me just give you some foundations of development and nutrition. Like I said, 3,500 calories, 1 pound. So you get an idea how much you got to eat. It's a lot. Now, you got to understand macro to micronutrients. I'm not going to bore you with this, but basically more of those calories should be protein. And it's not enough just to take a whey protein shake. It's usually actually not even good. Whey protein, it doesn't assimilate as good as eggs. You should eat way more eggs than whey protein. If you can, like we have a supplement which is 8 essential amino acids. That's really what you want because it's broken down into the components that you need. And then all your other calories have to just follow or have to have the qualities of good vitamins and minerals. And that doesn't mean a vitamin and mineral supplement. That means it actually has to be in your food, vegetables and fruits. And then all your other carbohydrates. And there's good hard carbohydrates, there's bad carbohydrates. Guys, y'all are in the era too of, and you guys are from Washington, you guys are better in tuned of it, but there's a lot of bad food out there, a lot of bad food. So be careful with what you eat. You need if you're eating something and you're not feeling right, that's called bad food. And you need to find out why and find an alternative. Because if we're gonna sit here and just try to consume, which is what we have to do, we don't wanna be consuming garbage. Because it could have the opposite effect of what we really want. So you need to learn what healthy, good quality food is and what your body really tolerates and assimilates. And then you got to make sure you obviously get enough of it and you get a high amount of protein with everything else. So that's just foundational for learning to eat, right? Learning to eat. Now, learning to train. You got to understand there's routines that you need to be doing every day. And if you don't do them every day, you're not going to see your body mature the way you want it to mature. And the routine should be some type of mobility training, some type of drill training for you to learn your skills better. And obviously you got to learn what is a better skill or how should I move better? And that's a mechanical process you have to learn. And that should be taught by a baseball coach or a baseball system like ours. Then you got to have some type of strength and conditioning. I like Olympic base because it's more of an explosive form of training than just a strength form of training. You also have some type of speed and agility training, which helps with speed, agility, and quickness and endurance and what we call anaerobic endurance, explosive endurance. Because you don't want to be building unexplosive endurance, which you can. It won't, but it will hurt you in baseball. So you need these routines in your life as frequently as you can. You're going to find players that overcome more in their career had more consistent routines every day, right? If you know you have limitations, and what's a limitation? You're short, you're slow, you're tight, you're not strong. The only way you're going to change it and overcome it is through adaptations, which is you frequently applying the stress in those areas to create that adaptation that at any point you stop will just go right back. So this is your foundation right now. So I want to hear all y'all's questions, but everything I'm going to give you is how well are you applying that foundation?
That's awesome. So can you give us like a rundown of like some foods that they should be mindful of, like that are good for them to eat and to eat a lot of?
Yeah, like you can get really specific into it. You can get like, you can do like DNA testing to see what your body wants more of, because everybody's DNA, your genetic profile is, the cells are always building themselves and organizing themselves based on the code, the DNA code. And there's certain things that certain types of foods it will respond better to than other types of foods. Same thing with training. There's certain type of training your body will respond really well to, and there's other training it won't respond well to. And it's good to learn that. You're in those learning stages. So I don't know, I mean, Washington, y'all got a lot of cool stuff like that. Like go out and see if you can get a cool DNA test on how athletic your body is. See if anyone does that. Like stuff like that helps. I know it can get a little nerdy, but real good things are going to be like quality foods. And I like, when I talk quality, it's pretty much just, if you were living on your own farm, the foods that you would actually grow and produce, that would be high quality foods. Obviously good fruits and vegetables, good lean meats, period. Throw every box out, throw every bag away. I know it's hard for you young guys, but that's the junk. And they have to put preservatives in there to keep shelf life. And those are the things that are really hard on your system, toxic to your system, and they don't help you when you're trying to be an elite athlete.
Did you have a question? No. Yes.
Wait, so like rice and wait, what? So like specifically, what kind of like box food or something?
Well, look, that's a good point. Rice is it's a vegetable that can be stored. Basically it's perishable to non-perishable. So perishable is something that has a shelf life. It expires. I mean, everything eventually is perishable, but something, when we say non-perishable, meaning it has a little bit longer shelf life. Like rice is a vegetable. It has a longer shelf life. So they do put it in a box. So if we're going to go box, I could say, yeah, rice is better. Obviously, there's a high amount of nutrients, or more nutrients in, say, a brown rice than, say, a white rice. So you could get more, quality or micronutrients from a better quality source of that. But I mean, I don't want to throw rice away. It's just, most things you're going to find in a box is not going to be that healthy for you because they put preservatives in it. Like look at rice. Look on the back of the box. If it doesn't just say rice, and if there's other things in there, then that might be a bad rice. That might be like a minute rice or something like an instant rice that they had to put preservatives in it. That would definitely be not as healthy as you just getting one that's just like a jasmine or a brown rice that's just pure rice.
So at this age, what we're finding is there's going to be kids that are going to be late and early bloomers. Some of the, I would say, later bloomers are what I would say have in common is they don't eat that much.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a pretty good ball player, right? I would say top to bottom, our roster is filled with pretty good ball players. Some of them eat, have an appetite. They've hit that point in their life, and some just like to nibble and eat very little, and they're kind of skinny. They just have been able to kind of survive off their talents. But I know, as well as you know, those kids are going to get passed pretty quickly if they don't start eating. Right? So how could you help these kids think about like the frequency of their eating and all the calories that they need to be taking in?
Well, I mean, I know it's tough, guys, because you're trying to train your body to do something that is it's forcing, it's like shoving things into your system, and it can be grotesque eventually. So I know what you're up against. But I was a guy who got to a point where I could eat 2 large pizzas and 48 wings, no problem, when I was 235. So to get from a young kid who, I was always a good eater, so I'm not the best one to talk to. I could eat anything, but what I do find with young guys is I think a lot of and it's probably why I was a good eater, because my family had a lot of variety in their food. And I think when you have a lot of variety, like my dad forced me to try a lot of things. And when you're trying more things in your palate, which is basically, you say, your taste buds, when they're like recording different tastes and flavors and consistencies, you increase your spectrum of food, and then you actually stimulate the brain to want to feed more often, because it's curious. A lot of hunger is just curiosity. It's like, oh, like, what would that taste like right now? I think I have a little craving for this flavor profile. But if you don't have that in your brain, then how can your brain establish a craving or curious about, I wonder what that would taste like and feel like. And that's a lot of how diets are built, off variety. If I had to sit here and eat rice every day, I'd feel like a prisoner, right? I mean, it would be really hard to gain weight. So it really, as much as I love rice, I don't like rice every day. I like it every now and then. So I think when you're young guys, start trying a lot of different foods over. Don't just do it once. Do it many times, because the first time your body's like, what was that? And then the second time it's like, that's a little different than the first time. And then the third time is like, wow, I think I actually like that. And then the fourth time you're like, man, I want more of that. And then the fifth time you're telling out your buddies, like, dude, that's my favorite food. Right? So I think you need to increase the eating experience, guys. Your eating experience is way too narrow, and it's too impossible. It's impossible to vertically improve your consumption in one lane of a flavor profile. Like, oh yeah, I gotta eat 3,500 calories every meal, and all I like is bread and Doritos. It's like, how is that gonna happen?
Yeah.
But because now I've been trying all these things and I have this list of things I actually like, now it's gonna be easy to get to 3,500 calories one sitting.
Raise your hand here if you have been called a picky eater at some point in your life. Raise your hand if you've, right? Yeah, and raise your hand if you would consider yourself a picky eater right now. Right? Okay, so I hope you're listening to Mr. Brent here. We have to learn how to expand that palate so you can take in those calories. But the thing that I really liked what you said, Brent, is just continually try these different foods, because the second, third, fourth time you try it, you might actually start liking it.
I mean, how many foods, Jeff, do you think you've eaten in your life that the first?
I'm Filipino, man. I can eat anything.
I know you can.
You kidding me?
But tell them, how many, do you remember any foods that you love today that the first time you had it, you didn't like?
Instantly, when you were talking about that, Indian food. Indian food is my absolute favorite food right now. And it has been for maybe like 20 years. But prior to that, didn't like it because I just never was exposed to it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, think about it. A lot of Americans all eat the same food when they're very young. A lot of young kids, burgers and pastas and
mac and cheese,
chicken tenders.
Because that's what was promoted to you. That's what was pushed to you. So just imagine if all these variety of foods are being thrown at you. Have you ever seen I think it's a crazy documentary, but they did a documentary on French cafeterias for young kids. Like, oh my God, like, they force them to eat like 8 meals, and they make them appreciate all their food's gourmet in any school. And they force them to eat like the wildest menus, like, because they're really building sophisticated eaters in the school systems in France. And then they show these kids like your age what American kids eat, and they literally are like making sounds like they're throwing up. Like, they can't believe we eat what we eat, because they have been their palates by the time they're in high school are so sophisticated because the schools have introduced them to all these foods, right? So I think that's important. One thing we don't do well in America, we don't introduce foods young enough, a variety of foods, and how we cook these and prepare these foods and gather these foods. And I think that's a lot of y'all's problem. It's a lot of America's problem. That's why we have poor diets later on. That's why we have poor, standards and what we expect from the consumers expect from the system, like from the foods that are produced, is because we weren't at a young enough age taught a sophisticated or helped develop the sophisticated palate. And that's what you guys need to work on. Why don't we go around and say what's the craziest thing you've eaten? Raise your hand if you want to tell us the craziest thing you've eaten. And it can't be just like stupid. It's got to be like real food.
Boiled like pig blood and pig intestines.
That's the Filipino.
I told you, man.
I got one too.
It's actually good though.
So good.
Yeah,
So good. Surprising.
Well, is this? I don't think this is Filipino. I think it's Vietnamese. I ate the egg that has the partially grown chicken in it.
Yeah, but look, that's Filipino too.
I ate that.
You have?
Oh, I actually had it in New Orleans at Ninja. You ever been to Ninja Seafood or Sushi on Oak Street? Yeah, man. It was. You had to close your eyes. It was the most amazing flavors I ever had in my mouth. But when I saw what I was eating, I almost spit it out.
Yep. When I travel to China, there's a lot of intestines being served. A lot of different meals. It's kind of like you have your meats, you have your vegetables, and then you have your assortment of intestines that you really.
I know.
Crazy.
That's scary.
All right, Mason, what's the craziest thing that you've eaten?
I would probably say it was octopus. Probably. I mean, I'm a big fan of calamari, and I really like that. But it was not calamari. It was like a different type of octopus, and it was a little raw.
Octopus is awesome. I've had it.
How about Griffin?
Probably a turkey heart.
I like that. Must be a hunter.
Adrian?
No.
To be honest, I don't really know because I ate a lot of stupid stuff. So, especially as a kid, because especially in the lunchroom. So the stupidest thing I ever ate was probably like ketchup and some kids like turkey leg and plus like water on top of it or something like that. Something crazy or dumb like that.
Well, at least you're trying to increase that palate. I like it.
There you go. Nolan.
I don't know. I can't think of one.
Or what would you consider adventurous for you to eat? Kind of out of your norm.
I don't know.
Something. What do you eat? What do you like eating?
Steak.
Steak? Okay.
Matthew keeps raising his hand down there.
Maddie.
One time I ate a chocolate covered ant.
Yeah, I've had that.
Adams. Noah Adams.
Oh, we have a cabin in Hood Canal, and sometimes we go like oyster. Like we just go and get some oysters, and so I got one before. It was like so gross, but cracked it open and just ate it.
Well,
that's great, man.
We're taking you to Louisiana next year. You're gonna
eat a lot of that.
Have a chance to eat oysters again if you want to try it.
Well, I think that's what I said. I think it helped me growing up in Louisiana, and you being Louisiana and Filipino, your spectrum of food must have been insane.
Yes, absolutely. Calvin.
I don't really know. I can't really think of anything weird I've ever ate.
So Calvin is 6 foot. How much do you weigh, Calvin?
155.
So he's close to 6 foot, 155. Hits tanks and is.
Pickiest eater of the team.
He only eats pasta.
Butter noodles.
Right. Well, look,
Butter-
here's the thing. It doesn't, what you eat doesn't mean you're not going to grow tall. You're going to grow tall if your genetics are tall. But it will prevent you from filling out. It will prevent you from staying healthy. You'll get sick a lot. You'll get injured a lot from your food. So you might not notice it on your size, but I mean, overall size you will, but you'll notice it in many other ways if you're eating well or not.
It's great feedback for him. Ian,
Same as Noah Adams, oysters.
oysters. Have you had raw oysters, Ian?
No.
Kenji, how about you?
Maybe like crickets or like natto. I don't know. It wasn't very good.
What's natto?
I don't know.
It's like beans that are really sticky.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Oh,
Okay.
All right. So if y'all had an event and we did a competition, who could eat the most in a
me
1
versus
hour
Aiden.
1 hour period, who would win?
Me versus Aiden.
It would be
that. Maybe you.
one of our tallest, strongest players.
Noah's raising his hand over here.
I knew it would be Aiden. Aiden would win.
Noah thinks he's
Well,
got
there's only one way to find out. So
it. Hey, maybe we should do this, right? Go to all you can eat buffet. What's the all you can eat buffet, Jeff?
They don't really have
Fried
them
chicken.
out here.
Y'all have this. One of my favorite places in Seattle was there's a place where you can get the dumplings, the soup dumplings.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Shalom Bao.
Din Tai Fung, maybe?
Dude, that place is ridiculous. Just go there and see who can eat the most soup dumplings.
I had that like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Noah Chong, how about you? What kind of foods would be weird for you?
I don't know. I ate dog food once.
Did you lose a bet or something?
No, I just ate it when I was like 3.
Okay.
Think about it. You've eaten dog food, but have you had pate?
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
Have
Right?
you had pate?
I don't know what that is.
It's a duck liver.
So Noah Chong, you have a pretty good appetite, don't you, buddy?
Yeah,
Yeah, he eats a lot. This guy is, how much do you weigh?
like 145.
145. How tall are you? About
5'6", 5'7".
5'6", 145. He has hit over 300-foot home runs before,
Wow.
and he throws 73 miles an hour.
Wow.
He is a beast.
And that's awesome, man. But here's the thing, you know, you the other thing to talk about is some people mature late and some people mature early. What would you rather be? You know, I was always thankful. I hated it that I was a late bloomer, but when I filled out, I loved it because being a late bloomer forced me to work hard because I was behind. And so the work ethics and the mindset I built because of it, I was priceless. I would have never traded it. And you see that a lot, right? You see the guys who develop early, grow early, get big early. They pan out, meaning like right now, you might think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And in 3 years from now, they might not be playing baseball anymore. There's actually a good chance they won't be playing baseball anymore because it kind of sets up the early developers for failure. Because the early developers are like, oh, this is so easy. I just dominate. And then once everybody all of a sudden starts to have their growth spurts, then all of a sudden you were just chilling out because you thought you had it. And now you don't have a work ethic and they're all beating you. And it's real hard. Now it's late and I've got to put it together and do the work and then get back in the game and try to compete. So
Yeah, so they're kind of in the situation where they might be mentally maturing late and emotionally maturing late, right? So,
yeah, I'm telling you, it's always good. It's always good to have something pushing you, like have something driving you. If you're ever like, there's one of my favorite stories of in baseball was Jake Peavy. He played a while back. And he asked Roger Clemens, if you don't know who he is, he's a legend, right? He asked Roger Clemens what was the best advice he could give to a young player in Major League Baseball. And Roger Clemens said, never comfortable. And he said, well, I mean, how do is there anything you did to kind of help apply that strategy or that mindset? And he said, yeah, I used to put icy hot in my jock strap, and which is kind of awkward, right? But he was like, seriously, I wanted to make sure I was never comfortable. Yes. And there really is something to do that. You know, if there's something always driving you and irritating you and pushing you, you're always in it. You're always focused and you're always trying to get through it, as opposed if there's no resistance and everything's easy and I'm on top of the world, then you get lazy and then you get overconfident. And then that's usually when your development starts to come down.
I love it, man. I love it. We were just having a recent conversation about really challenging these kids. And, you know, practices, scrimmage leading up to big tournaments, like you should make those practices and those training sessions a lot harder than games. So I know there's similar idea, man.
Well, that's why we talked about how we started this with the Dominicans, and they, I mean, Major League Baseball is way more invested in the Dominican Republic than they are in America. They have multi-million-dollar facilities down there to develop these kids, to feed these kids. They don't have those facilities here. They have it for their own professional athletes. They don't have it for the developing athletes. So they're fully invested in a country that completely has a completely different baseball culture than we have. It's not even the same culture. And the Dominican, like we said, it's just train. It's not play. It's not new glove. It's whatever I got. It's not new shoes. It's whatever I got. But it's show up and play. So, and that's what Jeff was saying. Like in a training environment, you have an opportunity you don't have in the game. You have an opportunity to put a lot more resistance and a lot bigger challenge on you than you can in a game. And you can gear that up and down. You know, in a game, you kind of like, well, you know, who are we playing today? Oh, they stink. Like, great. We're not going to get challenged today. And so a lot of times the challenge and the work, the resistance you're applying to your efforts is dependent on the team that you just scheduled to play with. And that's a failure in development. If we were doing that in a facility where we're just developing players, if I come in one day and I'm like, guys, do half the workout today, that's a total failure, right? So that's why it's so much better to be in a training environment than a play environment when you're young.
Love it, man. Love it. Great.
Wait, we still haven't done Aiden.
Aiden, you're up. What would be considered an odd, wacky, crazy food for you?
Kind of like Kenji, like either like cricket or spider.
You've had spiders?
Yeah. I didn't like it.
Nice. Sebastian, how about you?
Oh, well, I had the pig blood with the intestines.
Okay. Anything else that's weird? That's about
I don't
up
really
there.
think so.
Yeah, and below. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. All right.
Yeah, so I think the lesson is, guys, challenge yourself to go out and increase your food spectrum. Maybe write down all the things that you've eaten or you eat consistently, because we're talking about eating something consistently. So write down all the things you eat consistently, and then add on 2 or 3 more by searching the internet for some interesting foods or highly nutritious foods, and see the things that are in there that you're not eating consistently, and try to add it in and try to increase your spectrum. And then do that. And then once you get a bigger spectrum, go, okay, I'm going to try to like add 15% more calories to my diet. And then watch how much easier it is to add those 15% more calories, because you have more variety. You're more excited to eat when you have variety. Like we do meal prep here, and we have a week's worth of food. And if the next week I go to look at the food and it's the same menu from the week before, I'm like, oh, I'm less driven to eat more that day. But if I went the next day and it's a whole other thing of food, I'm more excited. I'm like, oh, cool. I can't wait to have this. I can't wait to have this, right? It's an experience. Eating is an experience, guys. And if you're trying to have more of an experience, you got to create more variety to excite you to have more of an experience.
When you think about weight gain, so for an off season, you know, let's go back to someone like Noah Chong. Or you were 5 foot 125, right? In an off season, what would you have expected would be a successful off season in preparation for the season? Like how many calories or how much would you have gained, and how tall would you have gotten, all that stuff?
Well, I mean, you can't really worry about things that you can't control. Like your body's, you can actually stimulate your growth, but it's still going to move based on your DNA. And if you want to know your DNA, look at your parents. If they're your biological parents, your parents are going to tell you somewhere where you're going to fall. If your mom's short and your dad's tall, you're probably going to fall somewhere in between. If you're lucky, you grow taller than your dad. And there's a chance of that, but that's pretty much where you are. That's the range you're in. But the things you can control is the size, the strength, the mobility, the efficiency, the motor control, how well you can perform your skill. Those are things you can control. So like we say in here, obviously let's get better every day. I mean, guys, it's a hard mindset, but really do your best to get better every day. How do you get better every day? Well, obviously the only way you're going to get better every day is you're measuring things. So get better at measuring things, what we call evaluations. And the more things you can evaluate and measure, the easier it is you're going to get better every day. Kind of like goes back to the food. The bigger your spectrum of flavors, the easier it is to eat something every day because there's more variety, right? So the more you understand how to measure your talents, right? For what's a simple measurement? Weigh yourself. How much do I weigh today? That's a simple measure. How hard did I do a certain drill today? I can put my velocity on a certain drill today. How much weight did I lift on my squat today? I can put weight on my squat. These are all measurements. The more measurements you have, then the easier it is to get better every day. Like, hey, today I got better in squat. I squatted 5 more pounds today. I got better in my drill. I actually got more hip to shoulder separation today. Or I learned, I got a better understanding of how to cock my arm today. Like something has to get better every day. So you have to do that, you have to have a better understanding of what you're trying to achieve, how to measure what you're trying to achieve. Then now it's easier for you to get better every day. So if you don't have that foundation there, which what we put in our training here, then it's going to be harder for you to get better every day.
Okay, guys. Hey, let's talk about this real quick. What can we evaluate every day or close to every day? What can you measure? What can you evaluate to see if you are improving or not? Yeah.
Well, like you said, weight.
Okay, so write that down. So what you say, you're gonna actually start doing this, right?
Body weight. Okay.
Yeah, body weight.
Oh, body weight.
Anyone else? Go ahead, just chime in if you want to talk, guys.
Velo.
But make it specific. Velo of what? Are you doing any drills? Like if you have velo in different drills, then because we have a ton of drills at TopVelocity. So if you have your velo in every different drill, then that's a lot more variety, a lot more things you can work on to get better at, as opposed to just one measurement of velo.
So what's one?
Like med ball separation drill. Velo.
There you go. That's one of our drills. So velo and med ball separation. Because here's the thing, your overall velo might not go up, but your med ball separation velo goes up. And then eventually you convert that to your baseball separation velo. And then eventually you get that to the mound, because the things that got the velo for you in the med balls, the better drive, the better hip to shoulder separation, those same components are going to get you better in the target throws or the baseball drills. And then that same thing's going to get better when you get to the mound. It's just making sure that you're taking those improvements through the steps to the mound, and now your overall velo got better. But the thing is, if you don't have a system like that, then you're like, well, my overall velo didn't go up today. I didn't get better today. But maybe you did. Or maybe you didn't even try to do it where it needed to happen on a simpler platform, which is the drills. And if you could have just got it in the simpler platform, the improvement, now not only are you excited, I got better today, but now you have something to build off of. This is the steps that we have to take to get to the overall goal.
Anyone else have something that they know they can measure often to see if they're progressing or not? There's a lot. There's a lot to choose from. Go ahead, Kenji. Just chime in if you're.
Like hitting exit velo off a tee.
There you go. Yep.
Your broad jump distance.
Yeah. Okay. We just did an AI. I got AI now, Jeff. I got a professor out of San Diego University who specializes in it. And he just did all of 814 guys. I have all of their evaluations, and he put it through AI.
Yeah.
And the highest correlation to velocity in my 814 guys was broad jump. Nothing was even close to it.
But
yeah,
it just expresses just overall athleticism, explosiveness.
And I think it's direction of athleticism really what to me a broad is. So the point is that's a great one. That one has one of the highest values to velocity in my data.
Love it. I love it. Who's going to start recording their broad jumps now?
And we have a lateral broad jump too. And both of those were right behind linear broad. So you have a linear broad and then you have a lateral broad. Basically like a right to left foot jump, left to right foot jump.
Wow.
Maybe like your sprint times like 60 or
yeah. Or your split, where you could split it into intervals, or you could just do a 10-yard sprint. But see how we're learning to train? We're all actually getting better here because we're learning more of the things we can evaluate, which we know these will give us more steps in the process to building the overall goal that we want. So now when we go out to train, now we know what we need to do, and now we apply it, and we're already getting better, guys. We're getting better right now. And like you said, we don't even have to train, and we can get better every day because we just got better.
What's one more? I'm looking for one more measurement. This is going to be a little bit more advanced, but I guess
there should be many more, Jeff. You should at least have a dozen at this point.
I was thinking the topic of our conversation is about diets, right? And we're talking about calorie intake.
Well, we can do it. We can measure diet. How do we measure diet?
Measure how many calories you're putting in your body a day.
What else can you measure?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
And how much? And then
You can measure how many calories you're burning a day too.
Yes, and you can measure, and that creates what? It creates a caloric deficit or caloric surplus, and that's very important because it really doesn't matter what you eat a day. It matters if you're creating a calorie surplus. That means a caloric gain. And you only know that if you know how many calories you burn for the day and how many calories you consume. And I guarantee you, majority of you are in calorie deficits. That's why you get sick a lot when you're young. That's why you want to sleep all the time. That's why you feel tired and burned out quickly, because you're in a caloric deficit. It's like running a car on no gas or just on fumes. And if you guys were measuring your caloric intakes and what amount of calories you're burning, and you always kept it in a surplus, meaning you always had more calories coming into your system than going out, then you guys would feel a reversal in a lot of your performance issues.
I'm sure there are numbers out there. I don't know them, but what calorie surplus, like if you wanted to gain 10 pounds in 3 months, which is obviously very doable.
Do the math, right? Figure out your calorie deficit or surplus, and then get to a surplus of 3,500 calories for 10 days. There you got 10 pounds.
There you go, guys. That's how you do it.
But you'll never know if you're not calculating. And I think like Whoop,
yes,
there's certain watches now that'll give you an estimate of calories burned. So you could use that, and then you could count all the calories you put in your system, and then you'll get it. And then try to get to the 350,000 calories in a week extra. Now that's a lot harder than what we're saying.
So some of the guys that you're working with, Brent, you're working with college guys, pro guys, they're definitely more mature. You were just talking about it, an early 24 or 24-year-old. How are they getting bigger and faster and stronger? I mean, I know they're just in terms of their eating, like what are they doing? What do you got them on? Is what I guess what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have supplements and we have a nutrition plan, and it's based on those core principles we just went over. It's just, I typically find younger guys aren't as disciplined, right? So if I got when I had David Ardsma, 10-year big leaguer, 14 major league teams, you closer for Seattle. Y'all should all remember David Ardsma, maybe not. David was literally counting. We would go to restaurants and he would ask them to weigh the chicken that they were bringing out. Like, that's how meticulous he was. And we gained 40 pounds in one off season. That was our goal.
There you go, man.
And then you have the college kids that you're telling them to do the same thing. And, one day you're like, what have you eaten today? And they're like, I don't know. And it's just like, really?
Yeah.
And you want to play in the big leagues. Okay.
Exactly.
I'll
tell you, the big transition for me from high school to college. I remember when I showed up to Loyola the first day, I looked around and I was like, my teammates are grown men.
Yeah.
These guys look like grown men. They have full, faces with hair on them. They were just big, jacked up, 240-pound dudes, 200-pound dudes. That's when I realized that, I had to gain weight, and I ended up gaining 30 pounds in an off season going in my sophomore year because I knew I wanted to play. And if I didn't gain weight, I couldn't compete. So I would end up getting up to 175, and that's the weight that I ended up.
Yeah, and take that. I had similar experiences. Take that and go, okay, well, what if you would have gained that weight before you got into college? What would have happened? You probably would have found colleges at a higher level wanting you.
Absolutely. I wish I was 175. I could have been 175, 180
in high school, and now you have other,
yes.
You have LSU calling you at that point, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Guys, so that's what you all got to think, guys. Like, we fail when we do something, and I did it too. When we show up in college and we go, oh, I'm behind. That's a failure. You want to show up in college and be like, wow, I'm the best guy in the room. And so you got to be, like you said, if you're not planning ahead, then you're never going to be able to foresee that or predict that. So you got to be now learning what you need to do. Like right now, y'all should be writing down, man, I need to be measuring all these things. I got to be, calculating my caloric intake. Am I in a caloric surplus, and trying to get to, if I want 10 pounds, 350,000 calories as soon as I can. So now you're planning, you're learning, right? And so now next step, you got to start applying. If you're not doing this, guys, then you're going to wind up junior year in high school, and all your buddies have verbally committed who are good. And you're going to be like, why didn't it happen to me? Why aren't they calling me? Why haven't I gotten these offers? Why aren't they asking me to commit?
And if you're not doing it, just know someone your age is doing it, because they will have access to Brent Porcio, and they'll even have access to this video. So there might be a player that's not as good as you that is going to do everything that we're saying in this video, and they will pass you up. Or you're that guy that's going to pass other guys up that around here in our area are the top players. You can pass them up. I'm telling you can do it. I've seen it repeatedly throughout my years, and so was Brent.
Well, look, and the coolest thing, guys, is y'all are in the information age. Like Jeff and I, we were growing into the information age. We were one of probably the younger generations that came into it. So when we were young, if we missed the boat and didn't learn something, there was a good chunk of us that we could be like, well, they didn't learn it either. But it's not like that anymore. Back then, if we all our excuses of why we didn't do something back then was, well, we didn't know any better. It doesn't exist anymore. And that's a blessing and a curse to you guys. The blessing is you guys can find any information on anything you want to overcome and beat. And you can do something that we more than likely never would have had the opportunity to do. But the curse is, if you're lazy-minded, you don't take advantage of it, it's going to haunt you, because you're going to think back to the years that you missed out. And you're going to want those years back. You're going to want to wish you took the effort to collect information and take advantage of this error. So you guys are in a tough place. It's harder. It's going to be a lot harder on you than it was on us. Like, you have the opportunities, hands down, no question about it. It's are you going to do something about it? Or are you just going to be lazy? That's the hard thing today.
Gold, man. Awesome. Any questions, guys? You have Brent here, the creator of Top Velocity. That you guys have any questions for him?
And, you know, I get that a lot too, guys, in my camps. I get a lot of silence when we ask for questions. And I think what that means is that you guys aren't thirsty enough for information. And I'm not telling you that to, you know, tell you you're not doing a good job. I'm telling you that to spark it. You guys, you got to get more thirsty. You got to be like, hey, man, there's such an advantage in me just seeking knowledge right now. If I just seek knowledge and hunger for it right now, it's going to just change my ability to compete, to get through school, to grab the things, you know, the schools I want, the teams I want to play for. It's really going to be the foundation that helps me do that. And I'm already excited. I'm seeing hands up. So go ahead.
Go for it, guys. Just click in and start asking.
What's a good thing to eat before a game?
Great question. So before a game, you would want to not like, well, everybody's different on that. Let's just go to, definitely need hydration. So water is the most important thing, even something with like an electrolyte in it, something with some minerals in it. So, but definitely hydration would be huge. And then something that is a quick fuel. What is a quick fuel? Is a carbohydrate. And then 2, you don't want a carbohydrate that spikes your insulin too much, because then it'll crash you. So like a candy bar before the game wouldn't be as good. It'd actually be better after the game, to be honest. It wouldn't be good before the game because it'll crash you into the game. Low glycemic carbs. So like honey is a low glycemic carb. Just look up on Google low glycemic carbs, but eat ones that are more like less in the boxes, more in just like fruits and vegetables, right? And then if you haven't had a lot of protein for the day, you need protein in there, but the protein can back you up. It's hard to break down. I wouldn't want it to be the bulk of a pregame meal, but definitely like low glycemic carbs, some source of protein. Probably what would be better, like we do amino acids, some protein that's already broke down. Your body doesn't have to break it down. And then a lot of hydration, just hydrating. I even like hydrating with coconut water, not oil. Coconut water, because it has like a lot of good electrolytes, potassium, sodiums. All that would be, that's a great question, guys. Most of y'all are failing. I guarantee you're failing to hydrate and eat before a game. And that's really a great question. Y'all need to do a better job of doing that.
For the people in the higher levels of baseball that you've been working with, have you seen them planning out like their everyday schedule for how they're going to get better?
Yeah, definitely. Like they're all like, 90% of them are incredibly routine oriented, like incredibly routine. It's so obvious that it's almost just, I could tell you right now, guys, if you really want to be in the big leagues, you need a lot of routines. I don't find a lot of them at that level that don't have a lot of routines. Like they have a system. And to be honest, most of their systems aren't that great, but they still have a routine. They have a schedule they're following. Because what that does, when someone at the major league level not only is highly athletic and talented in their skills, but they're consistent. Like that's why they're there. They not only can do it one time, they can do it every single time. And that's what puts them at that level. And you think about, that's why scheduling and routines, daily routines are so important, because if you're constantly giving your body a clock, you're following the clock on what you're doing every day, the same thing. So it's predictive. Your body knows what's coming, and knows what it has to do and how it has to perform. And it's every day it knows it's on schedule. Obviously, you're going to be more consistent when you're in those kind of routines and schedules. So yes, like you have to, and the point is, you're never going to get there until you start understanding and learning it now. But you need to get to a point when you're going into your 20s where you have daily routines of things you do, like we talked about, mobility, mental preparation, drill work, strength and conditioning, anaerobic conditioning, speed and agility training, mental, I like yoga for, parasympathetic, meaning calming down the central nervous system, ending your day so you can go and have good rest, and then really even scheduling your rest, scheduling your food. Like all this has to be laid out into routines, and you're definitely going to see more of an application of those routines at the higher levels of the game.
Oh, like, wait, I think I just, you come back to me in a second.
Okay, I got something.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, what are some things that can really help build more explosiveness?
So explosiveness is something obviously you can have genetically. You can have a more sophisticated central nervous system. That's the wiring of your muscles. You can have more motor units in your muscles. Like there's actually more motor units to activate it, which is typically more fast twitch muscle fiber. You can have better motor unit recruitment, but all that, if you don't have that, so if you're just not a fast guy, it does help if you genetically have it, and a lot of elites have it. But if you don't, you still can hypertrophy it, which is grow it. You can still improve what the actual software of the central nervous system, like what we call rate coding, and that's through explosive training. So your body typically adapts. So it adapts to the stimulus you're providing. So if you put a lot of weight on your body, its adaptation is to get bigger. If you're constantly like trying to do quick stuff, jump around quick, jump ropes, quick stuff, your central nervous system gets more efficient and sophisticated. So at the end of the day, if you really want to be explosive, you just have to do more explosive training. And what are explosive training? It's not just activating your movements quickly, it's also under loads activating movements quickly. So it's not just an activation adaptation, but it's an activation and a force production adaptation. So yeah, you can still work speed and agility, but you do need to then eventually put a load, an exact or a higher load than your body on you, and then try to create those quick, more explosive movements. Like that's why I like Olympic lifting. And not only is Olympic lifting just putting weight on your body and moving quicker, but it's moving it through multi-joint. So now I have to understand leverage points and technique and timing and positioning to more efficiently move the forces through my body. And that is really key too. That's more complex training that is really beneficial when it's applied or when it's helping an adaptation in a sport and a skill that's also as complex or multi-joint. I don't know, that is probably too complicated. Do I need to say it more simple, or how about Julian, real quick, say that back to me. What did you get out of that? I'm curious.
What was your question?
I said, how do you build more explosiveness?
Did you get anything out of my answer? Did I just completely?
Yeah, I mean, I got a little lost, but
what did you?
I got like it's about like the central nervous system and just kind of working on it, and So at one of my Trotsky camps, he said that one of the best things you can do is jump roping, because it teaches you how to be more explosive and also like how to be like more on the balls of your feet and move more like
as a middle infielder.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure he put it in his own words, so I'm not being critical of him, but that really to me wouldn't be explosiveness, that would be quickness. And I think it's important to understand. Yeah, it's important to understand that, because like, for example, I use the Christmas tree analogy. So if you got a Christmas tree, it's funny, I got one right here. You got a Christmas tree. Right? And if I turn the lights on and it takes really long time for the lights to come on. Like I flip the switch and it's like 1001, there's one. Then that's not quick, right? So that's, to me, an understanding of what quickness is. When I flip the lights on, I want the lights going on immediately. So when I tell my foot to go, up and down, I want it going up and down immediately. That's quickness. There's a difference between quickness and explosiveness, because explosiveness is now the energy, and that's why with power we measure it with energy. It's the energy being pushed through the activity. So for example, say I flick the light on and it quickly turns on, but it turns on very low. Well, I don't want that. I want power, right? I want more energy. It's not bright enough. I want it more explosive. So when I click the light on, I want it boom, like coming on, like blinding me. So that's explosiveness. That means not only did it come on quick, but it came on with a lot of force, a lot of power, a lot of energy, right? So when I'm training like a jump rope, yeah, I mean, you're moving your body weight. That's a decent force, but typically elite athletes move at much higher forces than their body weight. So that's where to train that, to help you move more forces, you would want to put a weighted vest on, or ideally, like if you're, that's where I like cleaning, because you can literally sit there and load the bar up eventually, not in the beginning. You can load the bar up where you're moving 3 times your body weight. I mean, that's unheard of, but more like say 2 times your body weight. That's still unheard of for a baseball player. But the point is you have a high amount of potential to load up a bar through an explosive movement where you're forcing not just the body to move quick, but move with a lot of energy and a lot of force, because that's what we find when we see skills like hitting and throwing. We don't just see guys moving quick, we see them moving a lot of force through their body, because that's what's launching the projectile with a lot of inertia and energy. Did the Christmas tree analogy help?
Yeah, it did. That makes more sense now. Yeah.
Okay.
How important is like sleep to eating a lot?
So that's an interesting question, because actually if you don't sleep, you will eat more, because there's a hormone your body produces when you don't get enough sleep that makes you want to eat more. But the problem is in sleep is where you get more hormonal production to grow more, to take your nutrition and turn it more into tissue growth. So this is the complexity of the body, guys. That's why I can lose y'all quick in a lot of these things, because it's a lot of information where, yeah, you want to eat, but why do I have to eat? I eat because my body needs these building blocks to grow. But what makes it grow is this, triggering the DNA to stimulate, hormones to stimulate stem cells and actually grow tissue. So the point is eating is only as valuable as the body's mechanism to apply it to mass, or to apply it to the tissue. And the problem is when I don't get enough sleep, I actually inhibit the body's mechanism to take the food and apply it into my tissue growth. And when I don't sleep enough, I want to eat more because I want to use that for energy, which once it shows another thing here is your body's using energy not always for building, it's using a lot of it just to move around for energy. So, and that's one thing when you eat, there's certain times to eat that's better than other times, because there's sometimes you eat, it's just going to go to energy and it's not going to go to building mass or growth. So getting in a very good rhythm of sleeping, in what we call the circadian rhythms, basically going to bed when the sun comes down and getting up when the sun comes up, that's very good sleep patterns. And sleeping long enough to where your body slips into these low brain waves to where it starts to trigger the growth mechanisms and the growth hormones. So you really need the balance in your sleep. So it's not that you'll eat more, it's so that your food will actually be more converted to regeneration of your body. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Awesome.
And then, of course, you want to eat vegetables and fruits all the time. But like, what's a good meal to have, like commonly?
Nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist. I mean, Dr. Pat is more the nutritionist. The balance of micro to macros is there's a specific good balance. I mean, and also your fruits and vegetables to your proteins, or your carbs and fats to your proteins. There's a certain balance to that. I do believe for an athlete, there should be a high emphasis on protein. But at the same time, the protein can really back your body up, because there's specifically, if you're trying to break down, say, whey protein, break down steak and meat, your body's not assimilating a lot of it, and then it has to be processed and moved out. So if you don't have a lot of fiber in your system, if you don't have a lot of good bacteria in your gut, you might not be moving it well. So you got to be aware of, like, yeah, you want to eat good lean protein in as much as you can, and then you want to get your fruits and vegetables, but you also got to see how well your body is at actually breaking it down and processing and getting it through your gut and assimilating it and pulling it into your blood so it can then, send the nutrients to your body. So it's more than just making sure you're getting a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of this. It's also, is it a protein your body can assimilate? And are you building your gut health while you're doing that? There's a lot of things to this. I think right now at y'all's young age, you just need to learn to eat more. And that's why we were talking up front about having a good spectrum of your own palate and where you want to eat more, and then just trying to consume more. But if you get to a point where you just start struggling, then you got to start learning about your body. Like I've sent some of my guys to nutritionists to help them with food allergies and stuff like that. That really, what happens is they start pushing in their calories and their body just stops. And it's like, nope, I'm not going any farther until you overcome a lot of these issues of stop eating some of the foods that don't do well in your system or back you up in your system or don't assimilate well in your system. So right now it's just, you need to just focus on increasing your spectrum of flavors, getting more food in your system, getting more fuel in your system, and then learning your body better to see when you start capping out on what you can eat, what you need to eat more of, less of. That shit, I think, will come more at that time.
Brent, I think, just in general, I think we're, as a team, we're going to eat together in the off season. So we have this plan of like every other week we come together and it'll be like a potluck and everyone is there to eat. It's just part of what we're trying to do for our boys, is really teach them that eating and sleeping is a huge part of their growth, right? As an athlete, as a competitive athlete. One thing, I don't want to confuse the boys like, oh, I need to take more calories in. When I think about sugars, there's so many dangers around sugars, right? Like candy bars you were talking about. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying, so problem is refined sugars are usually high glycemic, meaning it spikes your insulin levels. So what insulin is, it's a hormone that actually triggers your system to bring nutrients into muscles and tissue growth. So when you take in a lot of sugar, that is what turns it up, because it's a signal that you have carbohydrates to store and bring in and use. So your insulin spikes. The problem is when your insulin spikes, it usually then burns off all your sugars, and then you have a drop in insulin, a drop in sugar, and then the drop in sugar creates a crash. It makes you lethargic and tired. So if you're someone having these ups and downs, that's not really good. A lot of, this is kind of getting controversial, but a lot of ADD, I believe, is linked to that, right? If you're really hyperactive, you're probably eating a lot of refined sugar, a lot of high glycemic sugars. So you got this rush of like blood sugar in your body, like, ah! And then all of a sudden, all that insulin burns it off because it had a trigger, it pull it into your system, and then it burns it off. And then you go to these drops and these burnouts, right? And then it really is not good for your health. Like, it's not good for your brain. I don't think it's even good for your brain function, because your brain purely runs on sugar. So when you drop and you lose all your sugar, now your brain doesn't have the sugar that it needs to survive. So the point is, like, you don't want to have your insulin and your sugars doing this. And the problem is refined sugars, which are like candy bars and like, any type of box product has added sugar, that they're going to cause those erratic blood sugar spikes. So it's better to try to avoid those as much as you can. Get your sugars from naturally from fruits, ideally fruits, vegetables. If you ever add a sugar, do honey, because it's a digested sugar. It's already broken down, so it doesn't spike you that much, and it's really good for you. It's antimicrobial and all that. So you guys, and I've got daughters. I don't have sons, but I have two daughters, 12 and 8, and it's the battle with you guys of sugars. Because guys, I understand it's a battle, because sugar is the quickest thing your body can burn. They say fat burns in a carbohydrate flame, meaning when you eat fat, your body really wanted sugar, but it's like, all right, I guess I'll deal with the fat. It's always like that. It always wants sugar because it's the easiest thing to burn. The problem is it can throw your blood sugars all over the place, which throws your mood all over the place. which affects your recovery, affects your inflammation levels. It causes inflammation spikes, and it's not healthy for you. So the better you can even it out, the better your moods are going to be, the better your recovery is going to be. The only time that you could actually do an insulin spike is actually post-training, that it would actually probably be beneficial to you. Meaning you could eat, the only time you should eat a candy bar is right after you do a hard workout. Because what you'll learn too, insulin spikes growth hormone, and growth hormone heals and recovers the body. So they say like that's the only time it's really good for you is after you do a heavy workout, your body's broken down and now it needs to be healed. You spike the insulin, it releases more growth hormone, it heals your body. It helps heal your body. It'd be the only time you would want to eat a candy bar.
Didn't know that. Yeah, after a good workout, you know, in Louisiana, we would always go to Smoothie King, right?
Yeah,
Get a nice little smoothie.
Get a Hulk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what we did.
And that's the thing too, guys, is be careful with weight gainers because it's just a lot of sugar. I to be honest, if I want to gain weight, I don't want to do it with sugar. I want to do it with lean proteins my body's actually assimilating, which I mean actually breaking down and pumping into my system.
Awesome.
Bless you.
Any other questions, guys?
I think I have one last one. Is there like a specific type of food that you'd want to eat before a workout?
Yeah, Griffin asked that, like pre-workout meal. I mean, guys, just search on Google like pre-workout meals. There are going to be a lot of versions of that. Like I said, good pre-workout. Look, if you're training hard, you always want protein in your system, period. But like I said, protein's tough because there's some proteins that are just will back you up. They're hard to break down. Like red meats are hard to break down. Whey protein, you don't assimilate a lot of it. It's just pushed through your body. So we use amino acids. We use an 8 essential amino acid. That's because it's already pre-digested. It's like the honey, it's pre-digested. Your body will just soak it in, right? So you always want protein in your system because your body's always needs it to rebuild. Even it can use it in other ways. It does many other functions, but you do need a carbohydrate. And like I said, that goes back to the sugars. You need like a complex carb, a low glycemic carb, or not one that's going to be high glycemic and spike your blood sugar. Because you might come into your workout with all this energy and then it's just going to crash you, right? And guys, the other warning too is be careful with pre-workout stuff. I know you're not there yet, but pre-workout is very popular with high school boys, and there's actually been a lot of health issues with it because typically it's a stimulant. These pre-workouts try to give you energy, right? And they're giving you energy by giving your body a stimulant, trying to speed up your metabolism, your heart, and it's killed people on the bad end when you overdose on it. But the worst, I mean, that's really the worst thing about it. And the other thing about it is it can affect your appetite. It can lower your appetite, even though it's giving you energy. Now all of a sudden you're not hungry. So it's really not. If I was you, avoid pre-workout. The best pre-workout at that age, older in life, would be coffee and chocolate. That's the only thing I would recommend. So. I know Jeff likes coffee too.
I do. I have to living up here, man. Mason.
Go ahead, Mason.
When you're doing like some types of workouts, is it good to just do normal types of workouts like squatting or bench, or is there? I know there's a lot more specific types, but should you do the more basic types of workouts or more specific if you're trying to go like a single spot?
Yeah, you're in the learn to train phase of your career. So you need to do you just need to introduce yourself to many different types of training. Like apply it all. Apply the squatting, speed and agility, core routines, forearm routines, shoulder routines. You want to do Pilates, whatever. Right now, you got to learn a full spectrum of training because then we want to start to really get good at it. That's when we go into the train to train. So I'm not saying be sporadic and just jump around and try everything, but get good at applying as much of these basic core training approaches that you find out there. And then Once you get good at them, then let's start getting into a plan, a cycle of training that we can start building you up through. Once you got the base, you understand the technique, you know how it's working your body, then we can start programming it out, and we can start building up and then trying to push your body to the level of train to compete, train to win, where we start challenging ourselves in the weight room. So yeah, do all the basic stuff right now and try to get good at it.
Awesome.
Yeah, guys, I gotta shoot out of here if you don't mind.
Yeah, Brent, this was extremely helpful, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, y'all did a great job. My audiences are usually high school and college, so I was probably speaking a little too big in my terms and words. So I hope you captured something out of it. So
excellent. Okay. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Best of luck to you. I hope y'all come down here. I want to work with you guys when y'all get down here. We'll have a fun Louisiana experience if y'all can make it.
Absolutely. We are going to do
Is
it.
there time to go down there?
Like, we'll work it out.
2 weeks?
Well, we should have the dorm done by next year, so maybe y'all can all come and stay in the dorm and train at TopVelocity. So.
Oh man. Okay, so I'll be in touch with you about that.
Yeah.
Be a fun day up in Mandeville.
I'm excited. Let's do it.
There's a drive.